Hello everyone, Dr. Shoryuken here, and I'm back with a Third Strike iceberg. Now, credit where credit is due, this is my edit of this iceberg that I found on Reddit. I trimmed down some of the fat and entries I couldn't find any info on. But don't worry, I also added quite a few entries myself for a decent little Third Strike iceberg. Without any further ado, let's start. Tier 1. Alex and Hugo. I was surprised this entry wasn't in the original iceberg, but Alex and Hugo are actually parallels to wrestlers Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, even creating this iconic moment from WrestleMania 3. Evo moment number 37. This refers to the most iconic moment in esports history where Daigo execute a difficult parry against Justin Wong's Chun-Li, and finishing the match to a roaring crowd. This rekindled interest in fighting games and went to inspire many players to start playing to begin with, including me. Parries. The parry is a core part of Third Strike's gameplay, adding a deep and unique system with a steep learning curve. No longer were the days of spamming fireballs and uppercutting your opponent as they try to jump to you. Now, if you're skilled enough, you can parry both fireballs and set uppercuts. Future fighting games tried evolving or recreating parries from Third Strike, but never really captured the clean system Third Strike had. Super jumps can be cancelled. I think this refers to either cancelling a super jump into an input, like I'll talk about later, or using a super jump to cancel an animation, like I'll show here. Makoto's TOD. Makoto is insanely strong in Third Strike, to the point where she can actually kill you in one hit. Kara throws. Kara cancel basically means canceling a normal move into a grab or a special to give you more range. Almost all characters in Third Strike have one, most notably Chun-Li and Q. Fightcade. Fightcade is a community-made place for fighting game players to play online, and it even has a ranked system. Third Strike is still alive and well in Fightcade, and high-level players like Justin Wong and Smug use it to this day. Taunts. In Third Strike, taunts offer a bit more than just making your opponent angry. They actually buff your character, the best example being Q, where with each taunt, his defense will increase up to 3 times. Unblockables. Believe it or not, there are actually setups you can do with some characters to make unblockable situations for your opponents, mostly being utilized by Urian and Oro players, so apparently you can also do them with Yang and Sean. I couldn't really find any info on this, and are more than likely very specific and glitchy scenarios. Stopping Resurrection. The final boss of Third Strike is tough, partially due to how Gil can heal some of his health, but you can actually stop this if you hit him fast enough. Console ports. Third Strike has been ported to various consoles like the Dreamcast and PS2 and PS3, the latter of which still has a small community online as of February of 2026. With Tier 1 out of the way, let's dive a bit deeper into Tier 2. What I'm referring to here is just how overpowered Yun is, once he activates Ganejin at least, making him easily the best character by a decent margin, only being followed by Chun-Li and maybe Makoto. Q throw and vulnerability. Q has a few invincible frames during his crouching animation. This can be used to bait throws for a sneaky punish, and is seen used by Kuroda, also known as Q Pro. Character parallels. Third Strike may have been missing a lot of fan favorites like Guile, Dawson, or Blanca, but some of Third Strike characters actually parallel said characters like Remy or Necro. Here's a little example. Shin Akuma. This refers to a secret playable character in Street Fighter III Second Impact, though sadly not playable in Third Strike. Not normally, at least. Apparently his files are still on Third Strike, but are only accessible through ROM hacks and the like. Urien censored timeout. In the original Japanese version of Third Strike, Urien's timeout animation will show him squeezing his arm until it bled. In the international version, the blood was censored. We can have people literally throw fire at each other, see people get electrocuted to death, but forbid some red pixels are shown on screen. OTG. OTG is a fighting game term for on the ground, meaning an attack has properties to hit an opponent after they are fully knocked down. I believe this refers to the famous Ryu throw into Shin Shoryuken on Dudley. Instant X flat. This is what I was talking about during the super jump section of this video. Where with 12, you can cancel a super jump into X flat using the Tiger Knee input, making this combo possible. Hugo's TOD. Though not as well known as Makoto's, it is still a really cool combo. Stun juggles. In Third Strike, oddly in some circumstances, your opponent getting stunned gives you some juggle opportunities for massive damage. Here's a simple example of Zoro. Infinite. This is another entry I was surprised wasn't in the original Iceberg. Infinite is a Canadian rapper and is responsible for the main theme of Third Strike, and even some popular voice lines like With tier 2 out of the way, it only gets weirder from here, starting with Makoto wears her father's gi. This is pretty self-explanatory, but Makoto wears her father's gi and wishes to bring back the glory of her father's Rendokan Karate Dojo. Table hiding strats. You may have heard of stream sniping, but have you ever heard of stick sniping? Apparently some players will hide their fight stick to prevent their opponent from looking at the inputs to cheat. I don't know the validity of this, but it is funny seeing some players put their fight sticks in a little box to prevent this. 12's one-hit KO. So 12 is widely regarded as the worst character in Third Strike. And just to put some salt on the wound, you can actually kill 12 in one move with Akuma. As much as I love playing this guy, he literally wins at nothing. Street Fighter 4 and 5 are prequels. Also kinda self-explanatory, but Street Fighter 4 and 5, story-wise, take place before Street Fighter 3, leaving fans waiting for over 20 years for a direct sequel with Street Fighter 6. Elena animations. This refers to the character Elena being animated differently than the rest of the cast, using a technique called rotoscoping, where you animate real footage. This gives Elena her oddly realistic and smooth movement. Forward Strike. I never looked much into Forward Strike personally, but it is a fan-made mod to Third Strike, adding balance changes and new mechanics. Oro has no pants. It's pretty obvious at first how Oro is lightly dressed, but there's a rumor during his sweeping animation he is fully drawn, let's just say that. I personally think this isn't intentional, but it is funny nonetheless. Glitches. Third Strike, like any game, has various glitches, which I'll try my best to recreate a couple of them here. Thunderbolt. I believe this refers to a special move of Dudley's in Second Impact, which was sadly removed in Third Strike. I'll show here. It's a pretty cool attack and I wish I didn't remove it. It is, however, in Street Fighter 4. Q in Street Fighter 2. In the back of a Street Fighter 2 stage, you can see a familiar looking character, that being Q, of course. I don't know for sure if this is officially supposed to be Q or not, but either way it is pretty cool to see him in Street Fighter 2. And now we are at the bottom of the iceberg where the most obscure stuff can be found. Let's dive in. Gil was a CPS3 showcase, so the final boss for Street Fighter 3 Gil was made to show off the technical capabilities of the CPS3 engine, which I can believe it. Gil is insanely well animated and looks phenomenal over 20 years later. Danpei in Second Impact. Yeah, I know this isn't really Third Strike related, but I just had to talk about it. If you go to Deadly's stage in Second Impact and play as said character, you have this familiar stance from Ashiano Joe, that being Joe's counter. In this stage, you will see a character resembling Danpei do an animation when seeing the counter animation. There is no way this is a coincidence and is one of my favorite details in any game. Capcom Friendly Club. Capcom Friendly Club, or CAP, was a Japanese newsletter for Capcom that ran for a few years. In a spring 1999 issue, you can see some really cool promotional art of Chun-Li for Third Strike. Kuroda's DVDs. The aforementioned Kuroda had a few DVDs featuring high-level gameplay. Kuroda was known for being insanely good at Third Strike and probably the highest level ever achieved in any fighting game. You can find plenty of gameplay of Kuroda online, and I believe the content of said DVDs are also on YouTube. Third Strike DVD. This eBay listing was the only thing I could really find about this, and seems to be a promotional DVD for Third Strike from Japan. Either that or it was bundled in a special edition of Street Fighter III on PS2. Kuroda's allegations. The as before mentioned Kuroda a few years back was arrested for allegations of assault. This wasn't even the first case of allegations against Kuroda. Kuroda of course denies these allegations, but from the research I did, which admittedly was hard to find info on, it sadly seems to be confirmed at this point. And finally, Chun nerfed because of racism. So Chun in Street Fighter III Second Impact was super overpowered, and from my knowledge, unintentionally so. Since he is a joke character similar to Don Hibiki from previous Street Fighter games, he was later nerfed in Third Strike and now sits as the second worst character in the game. Some even consider him worse than 12. So this seems to be a rumor that the reason why he was nerfed is due to racism, but there is no definitive proof of this. Also, Chun isn't the only black character in Third Strike. We also have Elena and Dudley, both of which are very strong characters, Dudley especially being top tier. And there we have it, the Third Strike iceberg. I had a lot of fun making this video, and I hope I got most of my info correct. If not, please let me know in the comments. But anyways, I'll see you in the next one.